So there are different ways in which incentivization for electric vehicle purchase can be done. There are other ways in which disincentivization of owning another conventional vehicle goes. Those economic models are going to be built, and one of the reasons why FAME scheme talked about incentivizing electrification actually address these needs. Whether we can limit somebody from buying the number of vehicles is different, but indirectly that is being controlled by now new infrastructure which is created requires owner to have a parking space, because that's also another difficulty in the crowded cities. We don't have parking spaces, and then we keep on purchasing newer vehicles which get parked on the roads. So these are some of the efforts which are being done.
Of course, I'm not from the automotive sector, but I was saying to DJ that I think mobility is no more seen as a vertical, but it's more of a horizontal function right now, because from cyber security to defense to IT systems, we of course has an impact in the mobility sector, and collaboration is the key. I serve on the Honorable Prime Minister's National Expert Advisory Committee on Innovation and Incubation, and I was recently suggesting, of course, the Government of India and the Department of Science and Technology that it's time that as a country we also need to have incubators that are focused on mobility, because when I founded the company, we never had incubators, so I had to lie to my mother that I'm going to a I've joined NCC in my school and I'm going to cyber cafe, because for cyber cafes was the incubators for IT entrepreneurs. Then we needed to have computer and internet, but of course for mobility you need to of course it's capital heavy, and for startups it gets extremely difficult. I think the capital is one of the entry barriers, and for young entrepreneurs to get into the space, incubators are the way where you got shared infrastructure or shared resources in where they could innovate, and of course it's also time to democratize it. So you cannot. It's also very unfair if the same existing players have an undue or unfair advantage in scaling it up. So in case if we need to have young startups to get into it, of course it's also important for actually government to set up incubators or institutions to set up incubators and to set up a collaborative way.
Thanks. System for what I would say multimodal, same payment card, one card for multimodal is a technology. I think everywhere in the mobility ecosystem, whether it is a product or it is in the operating ecosystem, technology plays an important role, and it brings in efficiency, it brings in what I would say new value add to the customers. For example, electric vehicle, we are talking about need for power. If we have a V2G, G2V is a technology where you can actually use the electric vehicle as a storage in non-peak hour times or in peak hour times. So you can encourage such technology. So as I said in my presentation, we are in a very critical early stage of adoption of sustainable solutions in mobility, and that's why this conference, a global conference like this here, is going to help the technocrats and stakeholders to share ideas, learn from each other, what has happened in multiple countries, so that India and others can take knowledge out of this conference and go and implement in their respective countries.
Tasks here. Even in the aero sector, there are startups that are looking at electrifying the planes. They are right now looking at the short haul, because that's really where battery electric can be effective. They're looking at hybrid, of course. There's a lot of work being done on drones and heavy drones as well, even as transportation. It's a very early stage, but innovations for the future. And the last thing I'll mention is there's quite a bit of work being done on hydrogen, to think of a hydrogen fuel cell, because there's a thought that for the long-range planes, maybe hydrogen fuel cell would be the better solution. All these are preliminary, but there's, it starts with startups, and then innovation just keeps building.
In program, which targets 5th grade and 6th grade students, we have impacted 1,25,000 students across 33 cities, 1905 schools. This is first method. Second method is... Oh, okay. Is better? Yeah. So the second one is the collegiate design series, set of student competitions which focuses on experiential learning. We have all-terrain vehicle, Baha. We have Formula One, that is Supra. We have agriculture nurturing, Tiffan. We have hybrid, REAP. All these programs we are trying to get into the e-versions of that. There's a second. Third one is the knowledge dissemination, like President said, PDP, webinars, conferences. We are trying our best. And the fourth one is 1 tells 10. We keep spreading the word of mouth and through campaigns. 1.3 billion is a huge and daunting task. We are trying our best. Our country has 3,300 engineering institutions, and that is where our strength is. We have 486 collegiate clubs.
Mobility, aerospace also, European Space Agency, American Space Agency, they have a target by 2050. Unfortunately, you cannot electrify the airplane immediately, so they are started electrifying the subsystems so that you consume the less number. For example, landing gear. I worked for a company, French company, Safran. Once you touch down the runway, you cut off the engine fuel. To come to the gate, it uses electric energy. So we fitted an electric motor. This was successfully launched in the European aircrafts. And A321 is a very famous model, 320 and 321. Almost around 5 to 6% of the world population of aircraft has been fitted and tested, because in aircraft you need to spend a lot of money in test and qualification. Progressively it's happening.